Yo, 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 and welcome back to the Banter Boys podcast. My name is Sanji. With me is Elliot. How are you doing, boy?
I'm good, thanks, man. Happy New Year. How are you doing?
Hey, not too bad, brother. Trying to enjoy the last few days of my vacation in the wonderful heat before I go back to the frigid, cold, lack of sunshine UK, but I'm okay.
Happy days, yeah. Well, I've got a little bit of sunlight today in the UK, but it is frigid cold. You're bang on that front.
Yeah, I mean, one of us is in a sweater, one of us is probably in very, very short shorts. So
Yeah, exactly. And I'd love to have very short shorts on, but it wouldn't be wise right now.
Yeah, exactly. So before we get started and all that sort of jazz, I was wondering if you want to maybe do a bit of an intro. Tell us who you are, where you're from, a little bit about what you do. If you want, you can mention the club that you support or not. I don't think it's a great time to be mentioning that,
maybe
but
not.
yeah, just tell the people. Especially, I guess people in their Discord will know who you are in particular.
Yeah, of course. So I've been playing fan tracks since. So sorry, I'm Elliot. Go by Value Added Fan Tracks on in the Discord. That's a play on value added tax rather than me adding any value to anybody's fan tracks before anyone has any confusion. So yeah, I've been playing fan tracks or was Togger since 2016. So unfortunately spent most of my weekends for the last 10 years obsessing over lineup alarms at 2 p.m. and players that nobody else in the world seems to really care about. Yeah, joined the Discord community maybe 18 months ago, which has been really good fun. It's great to just chat rubbish about aerials and key passes that I've been shouting at TVs in the pub for too long, which has been great. Yeah, at this point in time, I've been playing fan tracks for so long that I think I probably support my own fan tracks teams more than my actual football team, which is probably wise right now that you've alluded to. But yeah, I'm from the UK. I live in Sheffield. Not too far from Ben Chickens, I think. But yeah, I've lived up here for about 10 years. So yeah, nice to be in a good football city because I'm from a small city with a very run-of-the-mill non-league football team that have had quite a few highs and lows since I've been a kid.
Yeah, I'm surprised you're not a Blades fan, now that you've mentioned that you've been there for 10 years and whatnot.
Yeah, well, of the two teams, because I live close to Sheffield Wednesday's ground, Hillsborough, so of the two teams, I lean towards Blades, because when I first moved up to Sheffield, or before I moved up, my best friend lived right next to the ground, so I've been to see Blades a few times, but I try to stay neutral because I always end up working with people from both sides, and then if it ever comes to Derby Day, I'm getting pulled in both directions, where if I stay neutral and in no man's land, you know, I'm not upsetting anybody.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, I try to go the neutral route, especially like, you know, since we started the pod and can't be as biased. Like, I mean, I still support a team and whatnot, but yeah, it's just like when people ask you that question, it's just like, ugh, I gotta go through this whole spiel.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah, exactly.
I feel like they immediately label you as a person as well, like your choices in life and all of that. And it's just like, I don't want to go through that, man. Like,
yeah, I mean,
I just support. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say I'm 100% guilty of doing that as well to people, you know, in real life and in the Discord. It's, you know, you'll see someone making a decision like, oh, that makes complete sense. You're an Arsenal fan, you know, or vice versa. So I get it, but also, yeah, exactly. I don't want people to think that an opinion I might have about a team or player is biased by the team I've grown up supporting.
Yeah. So wait, I mean, this might be a bit of an overshare, but then how the hell is your dad like an Everton fan?
Right, okay.
Because you've mentioned that to me in DMs and stuff like
Yeah,
that, right?
yeah.
And I think he's part of our darts league or something that Ollie's hosting at the moment.
So yeah, VAF Dad is now part of the Banter Boys cinematic universe. So he's an Everton fan. I think because when he was growing up, so yeah, he's from a place called Hereford, which is really small. A lot of people in the UK don't know where it is, let alone those from overseas. And the nearest teams are like Aston Villa or Birmingham, which is about an hour and a half away. You know, and again, they're not really glamorous teams. But he really loved a guy called Alan Ball, and just fell for some reason. You know, when you're a kid, you just love a player of some sort, and then that becomes your team quite often. Loved Alan Ball, and then decided to support Everton, which I think was all well and good until I was born, and then they just became awful the moment I was born. And then any attempt he made to get me to be an Everton fan just fell out of the window. That there's a story when I was about 3 or 4. He took me to a sports shop. I was like, I'm going to buy you an Everton kit. I was like, I don't. And as a 3-year-old, I don't know what my exact words were, but essentially, I don't want one. I don't like them. And he said, look, you're getting an Everton an Everton kit or no kit. And I walked out with no kit that day. So I don't think he's ever forgiven me.
Very, very good. All right, cool. Listeners, welcome back to the Banter Boys podcast. So, to those who are new, we are a default Fantrax pod. So this is our regular pod that we do every game week. It's the free pod. We do a second pod as well, which is our waiver pod. Typically we do that on Sundays when life is normal, schedules are normal. But that you can find on our Patreon for the low price of $1 a month. You're more than welcome to donate more if you want. This is the lowest it's probably ever going to be or ever will exist. It's TBD. We're still deciding on everything moving forward, next season, all that sort of jazz. But yeah, I say jump in. People are coming in every week, every month. We're getting new and new signups. Truly appreciate everyone that has signed up as well. But yeah, back to the regular pod spiel. So the breakdown for these pods is we have 2 halves. In the first half, we do a bit of a data dump, where we look at the default scoring categories and just kind of use it to kind of guide the chat. Then we do a bit of a league update where we catch up in our leagues, see how we're doing, good things, bad things, what we're planning to do, etc. And then we take our halftime pint. And then in the second half of the pod, we catch up with our Discord, questions that we've received there or from X or Blue Sky, any of that sort of jazz. And yeah, that's it. What now I'll get Ross to do is the social plugs. So Ross, please do your thing right here.
Yeah, for sure. So you can message us on Twitter and Instagram. Our handles at BantaB. On Discord in the Draft PL channel, BantaBoys #6585. On Reddit, /Banta_boys. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud, and YouTube, all under the name of Banta Boys.
Okay, so hopefully you've listened to Ross. If you're listening to us on Spotify, if you don't mind going to our main page, if you can give us a rating, 5 stars, we truly appreciate it. It is growing, so people are listening, but for those that aren't listening, just click the damn button. It's a new year, be a new person. If you're listening to us on YouTube, follow button, subscribe button, thumbs up button, all of the buttons, really. It's only going to take a couple of seconds. It helps us out massively, more than you can even imagine. And if you really like the content, feel free to drop a comment. And maybe we'll start reading comments out on the pod. Who knows? All right, cool. I've done all the boring shit. Shall we get started?
Let's do it.
Ay. Fantasy with the Banta Boys.
All right, so we're going to start with the data dump. Looking back at Game Week 19, we're going to start with key passes, as always. Highest number recorded was 5 by Enzo Fernandez, then 4 key passes by Cook, Kulusevski, Martinelli, Cole Palmer, Mo Salah, Ismail Sarr, and Watkins. Thoughts, Elliot?
I think Enzo and Palmer's got to be impressive in a 2-0 loss. That's pretty great. I guess that shows in some of Walton's numbers. Cook just continuing to be underrated by everyone, I guess is great. And Kulusevski, I'm surprised by because he didn't score that well this weekend. But yeah, generally speaking, Sarr, I'm sure we'll talk about later. But again, Watkins, good to see him doing some ghosting at least, because he's usually just score or assist and nothing else. What about you?
Well, I want to start with Enzo. So we've had chats in the Discord, personally as well. I think I'm more of a believer than you are. You're a bit hesitant. And he's still putting up the points. Is it still a case of, hey, it's still a bit of a easy fixture run and that's why he's scoring the points? Or are we thinking, maybe he's a midfield option that we should really be considering? Because you look at the waiver pool right now, it's fucking hard to get anyone. Like, I'm banking on the likes of like a João Gomes in a roster, for example, and he's doing fuck all regardless of whether the fixtures suit them or not. Yeah, so I just want to know, has your stance changed about Enzo?
Yeah, so I was very much on the fence about Enzo in terms of the fixture run and whether he'd be able to continue it. I think at this point he's turned the confidence he built from the easy enough fixture run into just solid performances. I think those people that picked him up, free agent or waiver or really cheap trade, are laughing right now. I think we're probably going to be looking at someone who's, mid 2-3 rest of the season if he can keep his place. I mean, he's taking sets. Chelsea have looked dangerous every single time they've played. I don't see why not. I think at this point, if you've got him, it's a ride him to the wheels fall off situation. Sort of similar to Sarabia last season when he came into the team and you just thought, he cost me a nickel. Like, let's just see what happens. I don't know whether I'd say he's worth trading in just because I don't know how much you'd have to pay for him. I'd want to trade him in, but I think you'd probably have to give up a big name to get him in. I still have that element of risk, but I think he's looking super solid.
Yeah, and he's got the captain's armband, and he's going to be playing every single game, 90-minute man. Like, you absolutely love that, right? So I still think if you can try and get him in, especially if your roster only has 2 reliable mids, I think
Good point.
He's a name that you kind of want to go for. So next, I probably want to touch on Watkins. I want to say a few weeks ago, managers would have lost absolute patience with him, and rightly so. He wasn't starting games recently, and when he was starting games, he wasn't scoring points. People were really quick to get him out. He dropped from like a draft day value of like round 1 to like maybe a round 6, round 7 value. I still think he's a premium asset just because he isn't banging in the points or whatnot. But are we potentially seeing an uptick in form? I mean, obviously he started the game because Duran got sent off for that really fucking stupid stamp. I think it was dumb to send him off and dumb that the ref didn't review it, but whatever, we're here today. And now Rodgers is going to be missing for this game. So even if Duran does come back in, I think maybe they go 2 up top and Watkins gets yet another start, in which is right now a bit of an easy period in terms of fixtures. So yeah, how are we looking at Watkins as an asset right now, you think?
I think if you've held on to him this long, which I would have done, I think if you held on to him this long, he's going to be probably forward 1 at best, forward 2 at worst. I mean, first of all, on pens, good team, in a bit, looking to have a better run of fixtures, probably will get some more pens with the attacking players. I think right now, you've just got to, again, ride it. I think he's going to be, again, a premium asset. I think he's probably gone through some confidence knocks with Duran coming in and taking the plaudits, even though a lot of Villa fans I've seen have been praising Watkins for running defensive into the ground, really, and then Duran just coming in and banging the goals. I think we probably need to be wary that if they're playing one up top, he's probably going to be coming off around the 60 minutes. You need to bear that in mind. But do I like 60 minutes of Watkins versus a lot of other forwards at 90 minutes? 100%. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, Champions League is another thing that managers need to remember as well, right? It's the first time in a while that Villa have had European football. Their squad is being stretched thin, and we've seen it happen in the past, like, with Newcastle a season or 2 ago, that, once teams kind of get thrown into these extra competitions, extra days of football, you're going to see a drop-off naturally, right? And it's something that I think we need to be mindful of every single season. I mean, you look at the likes of Bournemouth, for example, they potentially fighting for a European spot next season. Maybe expect that bit of a drop-off, right? Maybe you look at the talisman and that's it. But yeah, it's just something I think we need to remind ourselves of, because Villa's fixtures for the next 5 or 6, Leicester at home, Everton away, Arsenal away, West Ham at home, Wolves away, Ipswich at home. I mean, sure, Arsenal away is a tough fixture, but from what I remember, Ollie loves scoring against the Gunners.
Yeah, exactly. I think I seem to think that he might have been an Arsenal fan growing up, and that might give him the bit between the teeth. But I think, with Watkins, he grew up, or came through playing, League One, Championship football. He's used to playing that week, twice a week situation. But like you said, the rest of the team aren't necessarily. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes. There's been talk of a minor injury that he's basically, because they've got Duran, he's been given time to get his fitness back. And it might well be that he's now in a situation where he's fit and firing and he's ready to lead the line. I mean, yeah, would I have personally spent a round 1 pick on him? No, but do I think he, if he was at, end of round 2, round 2, round 3, you're jumping at the chance. And I think if you, reframe your thinking of him and look at him that way, then yeah, I think he'll easily go on to be, one of the better forwards for the rest of the season, I think.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, you wanted to talk about SAR. Should we just save that for later on? Is that like a league updates thing that you want to mention?
No, it's no problem at all. We'll talk about it later. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, okay, cool. But other than that, I think, like you mentioned, names are fairly standard. Martinelli probably sees an uptick because the likes of Saka's out. Kulu's just been the guy that they rely on. Cook is Cook. And Salah is Salah, bro. Salah is Salah.
Absolute joke.
Let's talk about some shots and how many were on target. So, bit of a surprise here. Highest number of shots attempted, 7. 2 players. The surprise would be Bailey. I guess the surprise, well, not the surprise, is the fact that he had 0 of his 7 on target. Salah, obviously, here, 7 shots attempted, 4 on target. Then 6 shots attempted by Eze, Haaland, and Watkins. All 3 of them had 3 of their 6 shots on target. And then 5 shots attempted by Liam Delap, who had 4 on target. And then Luis Diaz of Liverpool had 2 of his 5 shots on target. Thoughts, Elliot?
Yeah, I think Bailey's probably going to be a topic for throughout the podcast, really. And I think that a topic for a lot of people this season. 7 shots, none on target is obviously worrying. But I'm looking at 7 shots is exciting. We see people last week like Gruder putting up a lot of shots. Enciso, obviously everyone loves Enciso because he just shoots on sight.
Yeah.
You've got to think at some point some of those are going to hit the target. And are you going to take the 2 points from, even if he manages to get 2 of them? Yeah, I'm going to take those 4 points, or 6 points if he manages 3.
Yeah.
So, I think that's exciting. Haaland doing Haaland things, 3 and 3. Seems about right. Watkins the same. Delap, shout out to Delap this week, absolutely smashed it. I think he's, shown potential this season to be able to put up good numbers, but then also unfortunately goes through the whole 1.5, 2.5, 3.5 weeks. And I think that was the first pen Ipswich have had this season, so it's good to know that he's on pens, which would definitely give him a boost in value. I'd say I'm looking at Delap going forward, but slightly concerned that some teams come sweeping in for him in January.
Yeah, it's scary to think he's 21 years old. He looks a serious player in the making for the Premier League. He's got good physicality, got good height, got a great shot on him. He knows how to kind of lead the line on his own. Yeah, he's showing all the traits of being a great striker for seasons to come. Honestly, in a dynasty league, I think he's a fantastic pick, fantastic option if you play dynasty. He ran us ragged, to say the least. But yeah, love to see him on pens, like you mentioned as well. Other than that, all the other names seem fairly straightforward, like your usual suspects from all the top clubs. So I think let's move on to the next category, which is accurate crosses into the box. There was only 1 on 3 accurate crosses, which was the highest number for the game week. There was a bunch of 2s. I didn't want to list them all out. So the player over here is Mikolenko. Any thoughts here?
Yeah, I think largely down to Everton chasing the game, realistically. I think they're used to having McNeil just pinging anything into the box towards Calvert-Lewin or Breuer playing there now. So yeah, I've got a feeling it's just more of him just launching balls in, hoping that someone gets on the end of it. What about you?
Yeah, maybe slight flash in the pan sort of moment, right? I agree. I still think he is a solid defender 4 option. He plays 90 minutes. He tends to get some ghosts every now and then. I mean, Everton have shown their ability to get clean sheets. So I do think that he's worth a spot on your roster, if not your bench. I would be hard pressed to find a more reliable option on the waiver pool. So
yeah, I love Miko. I picked him up. He was dropped for the Derby non-event game. Managed to pick him up for next to nothing. haven't started him, but he's put up, like over 10 points per game in the 4 games since then. I think it's only one game below double figures. You can't really ask for much more than that from a defender 4, really. I think he's one of those players where I'm always happy to have him riding my bench, because I know that if maybe a more premium defender is rotated out for whatever reason, you can plug him in and he's probably going to do you a decent job.
Yeah, like I benched him against Forest this game week. Bit of a mistake. I still won my matchup, but yeah, he got double-digit points easily, right? So
yeah, exactly. And I think like the accurate crosses is great, but I think he fills the stat sheet with other bits anyway. I think this section might be a bit of a flash in the pan, but he'll find other ways to fill the stat sheet.
Yeah, agreed. All right, extra categories, the outliers for them. Tackles 1, the highest number was 4 by Dominguez from Forest. Drissa Gay from Everton. Dispossessions, there was a high of 5 by Curtis Jones. Interceptions, there was a high of 6 by Bednarek. Clearances, there was a high of 13 by Felipe Rodriguez da Silva, also known as Murato, also known as Ugly Felipe. Successful dribbles, there was a high of 9 by Bailey. Maybe that's how he got all his shots. Aerials, there was a high of 9 by Bednarek. And then block shots, there was a high of 4 by Dunk. Thoughts, Elliot?
Yeah, I'll let you take this one because I think there's a man you want to talk about here, so I'll let you take the floor.
Bednarek showing up in 2 categories. Obviously, that's the first thing that kind of jumps out. He's kind of increased in ghost point production since Juric has come into the club. I've not dug too deep into why this has happened, because it's a Southampton defender. It's like, why are you trying to logic your way into rostering or starting a Southampton defender unless it's like one of the wing backs, like one of Bree or Kyle Walker-Peters or Sugawara. So I might have to like maybe ask our Inside Tracks rep Jacob in our Discord. So honestly, I don't have an answer, but it is definitely the name I wanted to talk about. Do you have anything to maybe add on this?
Yeah, I think Bednarek's an interesting one because he's done it in the past. I think we've definitely had situations where he's been, the main guy for Southampton, trying to take the aerials and blocks and picking up the ghost points. And I'm just looking back at his 22-23 stats. And again, there was a little run, February, March, where consecutive weeks he was picking up good ghost points. I don't know for definite because I've got a feeling that Ketchup might be coming in or playing more of a part. And I know previously he's also done quite well. So I don't know whether it's an uptick just generally in Southampton. Obviously, Ramsdale's been picking up some good scores. Like you said, KWP outside of this weekend has done quite well. So I don't know why definitely, but I think it's definitely something to look at. I know there's been shouts in some circles to like, he's the number one waiver pickup this weekend or for this next game week. But I'd say I'm still wary. Southampton are still Southampton. If we're not careful, I know Ramsdale's been a lot better for them and their defence has been better, but they haven't been incredible.
Yeah, and maybe it's Ramsdale's new 3-finger or 4-finger glove that's kind of keeping them in games. But with Bednarek, I just get bad vibes in the sense that, like, in the past, this guy has gotten own goals. He's gotten sent off. Like, he's been part of Southampton teams that have conceded 9 goals and shit like that. It's just like, I know the game that I trust him, he's going to shit the bed, and I'm just going to be like, I fucking knew it. Like, why did I go there?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't want to go there. But listen, if you're a brave man, you want to test it out, go for it. But I'd say maybe get a bit of insight in our Discord. Feel free to use the club tags, tag the Southampton fans. I'm sure Jacob's more than happy to kind of discuss it. Next name here, Bailey. 9 successful dribbles. Good Lord.
And he was just on one. I don't know what he ate for Christmas, but he was like just on one. It might well be that Emery's given him a kick up the backside and said to him, look, you'll play. He's finally seen that. He might have seen Diaby go and gone, right, I've got free roam at this team now. I'm going to be the main man. And then he's seen Rodgers come in and just kill it this season. He's seen Duran coming in off the bench, killing it. He's seen McGinn over the last few weeks really taking some ownership again. And Tielemans has been great all season. And maybe he's just having that little moment where he's gone, oh, hang on, if I'm not careful, I'm out of this team.
Yeah. They came up against Brighton, a team that plays with a bit of a high line. They kind of, I think similar to West Ham, do enable assets to kind of get points as well. So maybe that is the grain of salt that we kind of take with this. I would kind of want to see how he performs in this next couple of games. I mean, Leicester at home is a bit of an easy fixture. I think if he gets a start, he's worth a punt. But then it's the likes of Everton, the likes of Arsenal that are much more resilient defenses. Like, is he going to be able to dribble past as easily? Is he going to be able to get those shots as easily? So let alone start, right? That's the thing. Like, for me, I think Bailey still falls into the camp that if I need to win my game week, if I need a sure starter and Bailey's stopping me from doing so, I'll drop him.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think another caveat from this weekend, Brighton were playing Igor at left back, rather than...
he's terrible.
Yeah, exactly. And, they've had Estupinian this season, who I think a lot of us were surprised at how much game time he's had and how well he's performed.
Yeah.
But he's been, bombing up and down that left side all season, which I guess might have pinned Bailey back a little bit. I know there's been talk as well of Cash not playing, and some people saying that's good and some people saying that's bad, but I guess it gave Bailey a bit more license to just get forward with Konsa behind him and attacking a poor centre-back playing left-back in Igor. So I think there's plenty of minor caveats there, but I agree with you. I'd definitely run him out with Leicester, but I'm also I wouldn't be concerned to drop him whatsoever. I think we've seen he's been picked up and dropped so many times this season, and fab-wise, it's dwindling every time he's on the waiver wire. The first time he was dropped, he went for 20 fab or something, and then it's probably at the point now where people are just going, I'll chuck a buck at him, and if I don't get him, I'm not worried.
Yeah. Final name to mention, Murato, basically long-ass name, Felipe. So he came in, I think he was starting alongside Murillo and Milenkovic. I think they went back three initially. The warm-up injury happened. They chucked an extra attacker up front in Sosa. But if Murillo's out for the next couple of games, would you be going there as an option from the Forest defense that I think has kept the most clean sheets for the season so far?
I'd be tempted. I know you spoke on the last pod about Forest defense and wanting to get in on that, and sort of regrets at dropping some of those players and not holding so many of them. I'd be interested, but I certainly wouldn't be diving at the chance. I think of all of the options, I know we've got this one sort of good window here where he scored really well, but that's including a clean sheet. Yeah, basically I'm
against
skeptical.
Everton, who
exactly
can't score.
Exactly, and is made for we've got Mikalenko pinging accurate crosses into the box for headers. He's got things to mop up essentially. So I think, would I be happy to roll him out for a couple of weeks and see what happens? Yeah, sure, you've got to take these chances. But of the Forest assets, of their back line, I'd rather every other starting, the standard starting assets.
Yeah. All right. Cool. I think that's it. Now let's move on to is there anything else you want to
No, all good from my end.
Or you're good? Shall we move? Yeah. All right, cool. Let's move on to the next segment then, which is the league updates. All right, Elliot, since you're the guest, I'll let you go first. So tell us, how did Game Week 19 go for you?
Okay, so I guess I should caveat this for anyone listening that this season I'm only in one league. I decided after several years of craziness every weekend that I just wanted to have one season cutting it back and see how that felt. So I'm in one league, which is DPL Lifestyle League with Sanji.
I do want to ask you though, before you get started. So what are you doing with all the time in the world that you have now? Are you seeing the world? Are you going to see world? What's going on?
Writing in the Discord, I think, is the problem. I might not have a lineup alarm, but I'm still on my phone an hour and 15 minutes before lineups, talking about who's been dropped and who's not. I wish I could say I was being more productive than I am. I guess my mental health is probably in a slightly better place because I'm not having to juggle.
That's really good to hear, man.
8 teams, and I just think that for me, I love being in multiple leagues, and you have, on the positive side, if you have a bad result in one league, you might have a good result in another one. It weighs each other out. But for me, I often just find myself cursing any streaming mistake or error across multiple leagues, and it just, if you're not careful, I think you can not enjoy fan tracks, which I find really enjoyable, because you're just
really good point.
running the numbers all the time. And I think a lot of people, myself definitely included, started with the home league, one solid home league, and that was your until the last couple of years, that was your everything. That was all that was going on. And I think you dip your toe into community leagues and stuff, and it's great. And all of a sudden, you're like, oh my god, I've got 6-7 teams. It's amazing, and you sort of just forget what it was like to just be shouting at a screen about one player that you've got in one match.
Yeah. It's tough having to celebrate and hate the player at the same time.
Exactly.
When you have multiple leagues. So yeah. All right, cool. Give us your update, man.
Yeah, so I won my matchup 117.5 to 72.5, which leaves me 6 points clear at the top of the league, which is great. I was very happy with the result, but I was playing against a novice manager who didn't really know what he was doing in Robbie.
Yeah. Oh, did you face Robbie?
I did face Robbie.
Shots fired. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, it's
yo, he's having a terrible season there. Like,
I've been in leagues with him for the last 2 years, and both of them have been terrible. So as far as I'm concerned, he's having his usual season.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, stuff like this makes me think that, hey, Robbie's actually human. Like, he's not the stat god that we see in our Discord community, right? But yeah, I mean, it kind of reminds you that, there are ups and downs to multiple leagues, and don't just chalk it up if you're having a bad season in one that you're a terrible manager. A lot of this shit is luck. Like,
that 100%, most of it's luck. And I think a lot of it as well, when you're in multiple leagues, you sort of have that one league that starts to go awry and not great, and you then understandably take your eye off the boil on that league slightly, and then it just slides, because it has to. You don't have the attention to do all of them, or it might be that you get a bad injury in one league, and a lot of Saka managers now, if they've got multiple leagues, they might be looking at this and and they're not pushing for the title, or they're just middling through the league. They might be looking at that going, you know what, I'd be better off spending my time and efforts in these other leagues. No one's going to take Saka off me. I'm just going to have him ride the bench for a while and see what happens. Unless they are really, really proactive and they're just like, I'm just going to smash it and I'm just going to drop Saka and see what happens. I think it takes up a lot of time.
So I mean, again, sorry to interrupt you, but
Cool.
You mentioned the name Saka, and I really want to take this opportunity to ask you a quick question. Because Saka's right now dropped in one of my leagues, for example, like let's say the other DPL league that I'm in. It's a league without playoffs. But if your league does have playoffs, right now, if Saka's sitting in your waiver pool, how much fab are you spending in either scenario?
Most. If I've got playoffs, I think. Right, so I discussed this briefly in the Discord the other day. I think if you're looking at Arsenal's season, they're still in the Champions League and playing well, and probably will be challenging. In the league, they're doing well, but in my opinion, won't be challenging Liverpool. You can look at that two ways. One, they're going to want to save Saka for the Champions League, and he's not really going to be getting consistent big minutes in the Premier League. They probably will have wrapped up the top four, might not be challenging for the title. So it'll be one of those where it's like, right, well, we'll run out, I don't know, Sterling if he ever plays football for Arsenal again, Trossard or Nwaneri, who played really well last night. But on the other side, it could be a situation where Liverpool drop a few points and Arsenal very much then are thinking, hang on, we could challenge here. And then they don't necessarily rush Saka back, but they look to get him back and look to really attack the Premier League. Arteta might be thinking, I need this desperately, while City are not on the boil. So I think playoff wise, I'd definitely be taking that gamble. If he is playing, he's probably going to be playing best part of 70 to 80 minutes, taking sets, being the main man. What about you?
Yeah. I mean, it depends on how much fab that you have, you play with, that sort of stuff. Like, I think right now I'm trying to remember how much money I have left in my budget. Maybe like 15 quid or something like that, $15. I think I'd kind of be comfortable taking a punt and spending at least half of it, I want to say.
I think about 60%.
Saka.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's worth a punt. I'm sure somebody's gonna definitely overpay. It wouldn't surprise me if they get so desperate that they drop him back, because I've seen it happen with Buonanotte as well. Somebody dropped 31 fab on him recently after he got dropped into the waiver pool, dropped him right after or some shit like that. So people are very loosey-goosey with their money. I think regardless of how much money you have, you need to put in a bid. I think if you can somehow build your roster to kind of carry him somehow, like I'd like rather drop Ethan Pinnock back into the waiver pool instead of Saka, right? Because there will be some gems floating around because of injuries. Like, for example, like a Bowen. Would you rather a Saka or a Bowen? Like, I'd probably gamble on the Saka one just because, I don't know. No, maybe? I don't know. Because like it's a bone fracture, right?
It's a bone fracture. They think he's going to be back in about 6 weeks.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Of the two, if Bowen hadn't been playing so well, if this was draft day, yeah, obviously I'm taking Saka. But I think Bowen's been really putting up the numbers. I think it's a close one. One thing I would say with Saka, this would be my plan. If I'm in playoffs, definitely, I'd pick him up and trade him out before he comes back.
Yeah.
As in, what I'm saying, like he's got the
definitely.
name value. If you can get him where, we've all seen it. The reports come through. Saka's back in training. Everyone goes, "Oh my god!" Even say there's 7 games left this season.
Yeah.
Oh my god, Saka.
Yeah.
Round 1, pick 1 or 2, like that. He's back. I'm going to give up so and so. The name value's there. I certainly wouldn't be dropping Saka if I'd have drafted him, just because all the other managers are going to believe that you value him really highly. If that makes any sense, you don't want to tarnish his name to all the other managers. Like, even right now, he's still got some trade value. I know we've seen the Discord. A lot of people have been like, I'm getting absolute trash offers for him. Just hold him then.
Yeah.
Basically, show the other managers that if they want Saka, they need to give you at least something semi-decent.
Yep.
If you're sending out trash offers, you're basically saying, I'll take like Murphy for Saka. And I'm not saying Murphy's trash, but I'm saying I've seen that trade go through and people talking about that trade.
I mean, trash offers means there's still interest, right? So
exactly,
hold strong.
Exactly. It's like if you're selling a car that you believe to be worth, I don't know, £5,000, and people are offering you £2,500. You can still aim for something closer to your valuation than just accepting the first thing that comes through. There's still interest. Otherwise they wouldn't be bidding.
Yeah, 100%. All right, cool. Tell us about your game week now. Sorry to keep running off into tangents, but
don't be silly. No, it's great. So game week standouts: Salah, absolute goat, just absolutely. I would say carrying me. The rest of the team have been doing pretty well, but he's just taking the mick. In terms of my defense all stood up. So we had Lewis Hall, Big Dean Hoyson, A-Rob, all smashed it. Semenyo again consistently putting up really strong numbers. I know this was reliant on not just ghost points, but great player to roster. I know he didn't make double digits, but shout out to Tall Paul. I know that you rostered Tall Paul as well. I mean, I'll take a 7 purely ghost point game. That's fine by me, and he's still in amongst it. In terms of regrets, so it's a lifestyle league, so I couldn't drop him, but Muric couldn't really be foreseen. I know he's not been great in terms of real life performances, but it's one of those things. I'd love to have picked up Walton, but that just couldn't do that. Rodrigo Muniz.
I think Robbie had Valdemarson, right?
He did,
in your matchups.
Yeah, exactly. So I was going into last night comfortably up on points, but that was a lovely little sweetener to see that he'd also suffered the no goalkeeper situation.
Yeah, that's one tough lesson that I've learned from like lineup lock leagues, or FA pool lock leagues or whatever. Which I don't know if I'm gonna be doing this ever again. It's not been fun being able to like adjust things during the game week, but yeah, you've gotta have plan A, plan B, plan C. Like you've gotta have a lot of plans. Like
availability is key in those kinds of leagues. I think it's a really interesting tactical adjustment because I think especially people that play Fantrax for a long time, you become super reliant on those quick streams and knowing players that have come in. But I quite like the fact it requires people to pay a bit more attention to what's been going on in games. And, for example, like you picked up Jimenez earlier in the season. I remember giving you abuse and saying you'd overpaid for him because in my eyes, I thought he was going to get dropped pretty quickly. But like, in that kind of situation, it pays off. But then unfortunately, you're always looking at the handcuff as well, which is really frustrating when you're like, do I want to burn 2 roster spots for, a forward 2?
Yeah. And I think one good thing about that league is we do get that extra bench spot, which is absolutely massive. It might not sound it, but listen,
It is.
comes clutch.
Yeah, I think I've never played in leagues with an injury roster spot. I hate that generally, but I guess it would be a similar situation where that having that extra bench spot makes such a huge difference.
Yeah. Do you have any roster concerns at the moment?
Yeah, quite a few. So I think you're going to have similar ones to me. The Bowen injury is massive to me. My midfield is struggling with injuries and poor form at the moment. So yeah, I'm already carrying Tavernier. You know, I thought about dropping him, but I think Bournemouth have been exciting enough that I want to carry that spot if I can. But yeah, so before Christmas, had a midfield five, which was ridiculous, of Bowen, Matoma, Tavernier, Odegaard, and Tielemans, which I was just like, my God, this league is done. And then two of those have got injured. Matoma's still Matoma, he's great. Odegaard has been the A2 man rather than the assist man, and Tielemans has just regressed a little bit. So I need to address that midfield a bit, but I think realistically you've got to stick with players finding their form a little bit. And then
the Odegaard one is really tough, man. Because I mean we've seen Zach numbers or whatever in our Discord incessantly complain about Odegaard and how frustrating he is to watch as a manager, because he's always like the pass before the assist or helping build the attack, doing all this intricate shit. And yeah, for a player that went round 1, round 2, if you were lucky, I get the frustration completely, but I think you need to be patient, especially given the fact that Saka's out, that he is on more corners. He's definitely on penalties. Like, I think good players come good. Like, you just need a bit of patience. And good players are allowed to have bad games. Like, I've said it time and time again, like we've got a lot of managers that are way too reactionary in our community, and it's not a good trait to have, especially when you play draft, man.
Yeah, I completely agree. So I'm just pulled up his numbers here. So since he's come back from injury, so the last few weeks have not been great, but so since he's come back from injury, we've got 14 with an assist, 23.75 with an assist, 15.5 with a goal, 11 straight up ghost points, 5.5, 3.5, 5, 8, 3. Not great, but, you know, they're all, you know, the last 6 games, he's not had any goal involvement. But I feel like generally, if you look at his form, especially last season, all you need is a couple of those, you know, a couple of goal involvements, and you're looking at double-digit games for all of those. So yeah, I agree with you that good players will come good. I was thinking about this the other day, what sort of fantasy players he reminds me of, and it's in a way it's partly Ozil, which I guess the Arsenal one is there, where sometimes he will just haul and just absolutely take the mick, and then sometimes you'll be like, he looked amazing but he got 3.5, what the hell happened? And it's because he's doing the, you know, Fantrax doesn't award for, you know, a nice pass that went, you know, out wide, or like last night he nutmegged a Brentford player just on the edge of his own box, and the commentators are all purring over it, and you're thinking, yeah, but I'm not getting any points for that. You know, so Ozil slightly down. And Mkhitaryan used to do the same thing, both at United and at Arsenal, where he might have some games where he'd rack up, you know, 28, 30 pointers, and then others where he's just completely anonymous. I think you've just got to, like you said, he's on some set pieces. Hopefully, most penalties, Havertz might have some. You know, had Arsenal got a penalty and he scored last night, would Odegaard managers be looking to trade him out today? Absolutely not. They would have been, you know, gloating that Saka's out and now they've got the main man on pens.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What else is going on with your roster?
Oh, well, I guess what to do with Muric, which I'm sure a lot of Muric managers, if they did hold on to him, are probably thinking the same thing. Yeah, so that's my main concern.
Yeah. Are you tempted by the likes of maybe Areola? Maybe a bump up in Jose Sa's performance given the new manager bounce. We talked about Ramsdale. I mean, listen, Muric is a bit set and forget, right? But given how strong the rest of your roster is, it feels like you can kind of afford to ride the wave somewhat. I don't know.
Yeah, so generally I don't like the churn and burn on goalkeepers. I don't really like streaming goalkeepers very much. I find that, I can't remember who it was, but I remember on X, formerly known as Twitter, quite a while ago, there was, some guys did the experiment on how it would work out if you streamed versus set and forget. Generally, I like to get someone like a Leno, someone who's probably going to get you 7 or 8 points each game week. I'm definitely tempted by Ramsdale. Jose Sarr, I am tempted, but then if you dig into the numbers a little bit, propped up massively this weekend by the penalty save, and the previous games, one of them was a clean sheet as well. So yes, whilst he's posted 3 back-to-back double digits, I think you pull a couple of bits out and that's not looking so strong. Areola, I am tempted by because he looked... this shouldn't make sense when they lose 5-0, but he looked brilliant on the weekend. Just
best player for them.
Absolutely, lights out. Should have been 10. Probably, if I'm a West Ham fan, I'm sitting there saying there should have been some goals that he saved. But then some of the saves he made, he had no right to make. So, I'd be tempted by Areola. Yeah. Has there been a time frame for Fabianski?
I've not seen anything, to be honest. The games have been coming so thick and fast. It's like a miracle if I can kind of catch up on injury updates over the last couple of days. So I think that's a good point. Keep an eye out if there's a bit of a lengthy layoff for him, because it might have been concussion related. So it could also just be concussion protocol sort of vibes. But yeah, I think I agree. Areola is definitely an asset that I'm eyeing up in a couple of my leagues as well.
Yeah, so I think...
in terms of... sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think I'm just looking at the West Ham's fixtures. So obviously they've got City this weekend, which usually we'd all say avoid like the plague, but that actually could be quite a good run out for Areola. It could be similar to Liverpool, whereby City looked better on the weekend, but they didn't look, all conquering. So if they're going to put up shots against him, then great.
Yeah, exactly. In terms of waiver picks, I know they haven't been processed yet, but is there anything you want to touch on before we switch over to me?
Obviously, I'm worried that anyone I do mention, you're also in the league, so it's going to be giving my game plan away. So no, I'm not looking at anyone for waivers.
I mean, given the fact that you're in only one league, I completely understand the tactic. I do want to touch on the fact that I think what really... Well, I don't know at what point you made this trade, but it basically gave you the driving seat to our league was the trade, I think, that involved TBB for you to get Salah. I think that was basically the game-changing trade for our league, and it gave you a massive boost. And yeah, I want to say kudos, man. Well done on that, because not everyone would have expected Mo to be this consistent, this lights out, probably... arguably his best season that we've seen so far to date, maybe since his debut record-breaking season. And you've kind of not looked back since then.
Yeah, I one thing I will say is kudos to the manager that offered me that trade rather than to myself. So for anyone that isn't in the league, so mid-draft, I was offered Mo Salah, who was taken, I think, at 3, maybe 4. Mo Salah for Trent Alexander-Arnold and João Pedro. So I'd taken Trent round 2 and Pedro round 4, but it was Salah plus 25 fab. And this was the point when we all hoped that Osimhen was coming in as well. So I was like, great, fab leader, let's go. Yeah. It actually sat in my inbox for a week because I had serious doubts over Mo's playing time and or potential Saudi move in January, because my thinking was, maybe he has an okay start to the season. Saudi come in and offer 90 million. Liverpool give him a... you've been an absolute great. Thank you so much. Everyone's happy with this deal. And I was also mindful of exactly what's happening right now with Trent and Madrid making overtures, some disgruntlement amongst fans, Bradley being, a coming force and looking strong when he has played. And João Pedro, I think at that point, they just signed Ruter. Everyone was just dribbling over Minte. And so, we weren't really sure. So, again, a huge slice of luck involved in that. But Mo being absolutely lights out has just made my life so much easier.
Yeah, I can't agree more. And perfect transition / segue to my league updates, because I own him in my IGL league. Unfortunately, I had a loss this game week, 115 to 135. So my lead at the top I came up, I think, against the second best scoring team. So it's just one of those. You can't really do anything about it. So my lead at the top got reduced to 12 points. And funny enough, the three teams below me who are all tied on the same points now basically all won their matchups. So like I've got a pack chasing me at the moment, which is kind of nice, kind of bad. But in terms of the standout performers, Castagnier, Nico Williams, Adingra, who is like a last second stream, came up trumps for me. Didn't really get me the win, but I was kind of still happy to get him. Iwobi, who has been very consistent this season. I think I've got him in several leagues. And then, like we mentioned, Mo Salah, he's just been Mr. Consistent. 40-point game, great score. Again, it wasn't good enough to get me the win. In terms of regrets, so goalkeeper option. I thought, you know what, maybe Flecken is actually out, and I refuse to even swap or take the punt on like Walton versus Chelsea or go literally anyone else. I looked at it as well. I think the top scoring goalkeeper this game week was actually Walton, who got 20 points exact, which is exactly would have given me the draw. But I hate doing this sort of hindsighty bullshit behavior. Like, it is what it is. I think I just came up against a team that absolutely banged this game week. I think he had like Wood, he had Savio, he had Morgan Rogers. So literally he had like 3 goals, 4 assists. It's just, again, I think you just accept it, because the way I look at it is there were previous game weeks that I got very lucky that I should not have won. So this is just balance, basically, right, in the universe.
Yeah, you can't you can't moan about losing to a team that's put up 135. All you can say is fair play. You know, you smashed it. And also your team, 115 points. They didn't perform badly. So there's no, like we said before, too many people are too quick to make snap decisions. And, they might have put up 110 and lost to 125. And they're thinking, I need to clear out half my team. It's like, no, just stick to what you're doing. You'll be fine.
Yeah, and this is without a playing goalkeeper, without the likes of McNeil. Bowen fractured his foot, -1 points. Like, sure, Mo makes up like a third of those points, but it's like you said, trust the process in the sense, right? The other regret that I had was trusting 2 of these players, Tosin and João Gomes. Do I just need to cut my losses with these guys?
Yes, you do.
Enough said. In terms of roster concerns, so like we've mentioned a few of players that have been injured for somewhat of like a long to medium term, players missing in action like McNeil. A lot of my studs are dropping week by week, month by month, and now I kind of badly need a mid. So that's something that I do need to address, I think, in like my waiver for I think it's tonight or later today. I think all the leagues are clearing today. So I do need to make, I guess, some tough calls, some tough decisions. But I guess what I wanted to ask you, and I'm probably not going to listen, it's just purely sounding board thing, but would you be dropping the likes of either Pinnock or Bowen right now?
Pinnock, he's gone.
Bowen, you'd keep?
Yeah, for me, I'd keep Bowen. Pinnock, it seems like they're being a bit mysterious over an exact timeline, which automatically gives me concerns. The same thing with McNeil, with Everton,
Yeah.
Pinnock has at times been very good this season. However, he's not been like your defender 1. You're probably he's probably been your solid defender 2 at times, but he's not necessarily set and forget. You're not looking at every game going, oh my God, there's a guaranteed, 12, 15 points. So if you needed a roster space, he's definitely, the way I always say it is, he's droppable, but he doesn't mean he should automatically be dropped. But I think if I'm looking for rosters, then him. Bowen, I think he's Mr. West Ham. He's going to be the 90-minute man when he's back. I know it's a fractured foot, which isn't ideal, but to me, that suggests once it's healed, it's healed. It's not, like a hamstring injury that is going to get re-aggravated, straight away if he overstretches. Obviously, you need to be mindful in the confidence. He might have a bit of a confidence knock, but this is a guy, he's from the same place that I'm from. Well, he's from a bad part of Hereford, but he's from Hereford, which is where I'm from. He's grown up playing and played for Hereford in non-league and played in, all right through the leagues. He's played on crappy pitches. He's not, this player that's come through the academies at the top level and always been treated like a king, and any minor injury was treated so and so. He's used to playing with knocks and getting kicked a lot. Like, that happens. He's used to it. I think he'll be desperate to come back and play as soon as possible. So for me, I'd be holding Bowen. I mean, if I could buy him in on the cheap from someone, I'd definitely be thinking about it.
Yeah, great shout. And McNeil, we just keep patient. Daesh being Daesh.
Yeah, the whole McNeil situation sucks, man. So, as you know, I drafted McNeil, managed to trade him out like a few weeks on a relative high, a few weeks before the injury. Didn't feel too bad about the injury because I only thought it was a couple of weeks. If I'd known it had been this long, I'd feel a bit more guilty about it. But yeah, I think at this point you've held him this long. You've just got to wait and see what happens. I don't think you're going to get McNeil value for him. Appropriate value if you were to trade him out. So
yeah, cool. So we'll move on to DPL. So rare win here. It's probably one of the most miserable leagues both Ryan and I have been in, and I think Ryan must have won this week as well. So yeah, it's a shame he's not here to kind of gloat about it. But won there 98-58. I thought my opponent had like downed his tools, but then I realized he did actually play an 11 and it was just shit.
Yeah, that's how I felt about Robbie this weekend.
Standings, I don't really want to mention it because last time I bragged about, hey, look, I'm within a reach of like a good finish, and it just went downhill again for the next few weeks. So we're just going to take the win, move on. In terms of standout performers.
Stay humble, eh? Stay humble.
Yeah, exactly, right? Munoz, absolute god. Eze coming back good. Iwobi, like I mentioned, he's been fantastic. McAllister starting to show some form again. And Brennan Johnson getting the goal. Before I continue with my updates, McAllister, are we believing this is potentially reborn McAllister like we saw last season as well around the same time of the season?
I don't know. I'm skeptical. I think he looks super promising being on sets, but I think it might have been a bit of a perfect storm moment. I think you've got Szoboszlai, who will be back this week, I think, which again might take some of the set situation away. The Trent situation, we don't know how that's going to play out, but it might well be that set-wise that's going from there. No, he's not just relying on sets, but I'm definitely wary. I wouldn't be looking to trade him in anyway. Not for what you're going to have to pay to get him in.
Yeah, good point. In terms of regrets, so I had a decision between Doherty and Mikolenko. Maybe if I had to beat myself up a bit, is just maybe looking at the lineup, the predicted lineups that you see on like SofaScore and stuff like that. Sometimes, it's either him or Semedo that's playing that wing-back spot versus that centre-back spot, that right-handed side. So I saw him like he was tipped to be playing the deeper role, and maybe I should have taken that into consideration. Also, the fact that away to Spurs, even though they're trash, they still score goals. And maybe I should have gone Mikolenko because, like we talked about, Miko, sure, he doesn't have attack and returns on him, but he just does the dirty work and does it well. So that's something I think I maybe need to consider moving forward. Same goalkeeper shenanigans. I didn't replace Valdemarson, and obviously I'm going to replace him in both leagues now. In terms of concerns, it's a bit of a... I know I say concern and it's going to sound like a bit of a not so humble brag, but I've kind of got too many midfielders in this roster, so I'll rattle them off. Eze, Enzo Fernandez, Iwobi, McAllister, Damsgaard, and Norgard, and Garnacho. So I feel like I need to somehow make a trade and maybe strengthen somewhere else. Maybe do a 2-for-1, get another stud into my roster. Because things are starting to slowly look better in this roster. But yeah, what are your thoughts about those options?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Enzo will have been a lovely surprise there because I'm assuming you didn't give up a huge amount to get him.
5 fab?
Great. Okay. So I'm just looking at numbers now. I think I'd probably be looking to trade out Damsgaard. I think that score last night, the assist, papered over a fair few cracks. I think I know that, again, you discussed this on the last pod, but the whole Brentford situation whereby they had the very kind home fixtures, and then it will be flipping a little bit, but I think we saw it last night with Arsenal. Yeah, he managed to put up 10 points, but take away the assist, and we're looking at 4. And then the week before, 13.5. and 7.5. I think if you can get, I know they've got Southampton this weekend, but then they've got a run of City, Liverpool, Palace away, Spurs, West Ham, which, it's not awful, but it's not great. And I think Damsgaard's one of those players where the name value isn't there. People are still looking at Damsgaard as, he's a rotational Brentford asset that has been streaky in the past, rather than he's been very good. I think if I could trade him out, I probably would. If there was any way you could package Damsgaard and McAllister for, a set and forget mid, like, I don't know whether you'd be able to do that, but I'd certainly be thinking about it.
Yeah, I'll have to throw some offers out there. I thought about maybe even packaging Garnacho as well, because yes, we know his upside, his ceiling and all that, but it's also United are just on relegation form at the moment.
Yeah, I want no part
what
of
is
Garnacho.
happening out there, man?
Yeah, I want no part of Garnacho. I think he has the upside, doesn't ghost well, could potentially be off. I mean, I know the rumours are very much far-flung, but they've put a valuation on him. I think I've heard about 50 million. If he came from Atletico when he came to United, if I'm Atletico or someone like that, and I'm looking at 50 million, I'm certainly thinking about it for, a super young asset that would probably get homegrown status for them. Again, any team in La Liga, really. I agree with you wholeheartedly. If I could find a way to use him as the sweetener, and he's a pretty big sweetener for some managers, because there'll be other managers that completely disagree with me and think he's all upside at this point.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I won't be able to do this, but I'm almost tempted to try packaging Garnacho and Damsgaard and offer it to the Odegaard owner, because if they are frustrated Odegaard owners, I don't think in any manager in their right mind would accept it, but you won't know until you try.
Yeah, I mean, I think they'd certainly be tempted. I certainly don't think it'd be an instant reject. Depends on the rest of their roster. If they've got room for an upside punt on Garnacho, then I think they'd certainly be tempted. I think that trade would be amazing, because the thing is with Odegaard, even if he continues to put numbers of 8 for a few weeks, he's still got the name value. And he takes one pen and it goes in, and all of a sudden you're looking at a 15 to 20 point game and people are going, Odegaard's back.
Yeah, exactly. All right, cool. I think, like I mentioned, wave updates won't happen because waivers still have to process all that sort of jazz. So what we'll do now is take our halftime pint, and we will be back after the break with some questions. So we'll see you in a bit. And we are back. All right. As you would have realized, halftime pint, we don't actually have pints.
Speak for yourself.
Ever. Wait, what are you drinking?
Oh no, I've just finished my water, but it's nearly midday. I mean, I'm still technically on Christmas vacation, so I could crack open a bottle of something.
Yeah. If you had to right now, what would it be?
At this time of day, I don't know. Are we talking maybe a hot chocolate with Baileys in it? A pint of Guinness as a nice little lunchtime instead of a meal, arguably. But yeah, hot chocolate with Baileys always goes on well.
You know what? I've been killing for a Guinness in this heat. It would be the perfect thing right now. I've been craving one nonstop. They're getting posted nonstop in our Discord. Plug for the Discord again. We don't only talk fan tracks, man. We talk literally everything.
Yeah, too much.
But yeah, I would kill for a Guinness. Too much, yeah. I love that, a regular Discord about fan tracks would freak out, start talking about replacements for Bowen, etc., etc. We went on into a full-blown discussion about poutine. I love our Discord, man. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, I mean, what more do you want to... As soon as I hear that someone's broken their foot, I immediately think chip, cheese and gravy.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to just eat your way through the misery, surely.
It's the season for it.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's jump into some questions. First question is from Senor Golazo. So his question is, what players should you roster that will benefit from a potential change of scenery or increased playing time during the winter transfer window?
First player that comes to mind is Kieran Trippier, I think, for me. And it might even be that he doesn't need a change of scenery, because it looks like he's in and amongst the 11 now, especially with Livramento in and out. But yeah, there's been talk of Trippier maybe getting a move to Everton, or I think if he does that, you all have if you got him and you've picked him up after someone dropped him off the draft, you're laughing.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm wondering, maybe I don't want to say the Chelsea boys because I feel like we're gonna have more losses, and it's not like Maresca's rotated a lot, so I don't see anyone massively benefiting there.
I think people are
I
probably all going to
can't.
be looking at Chilwell, praying that he gets a move to Brentford or somewhere. I think I keep seeing Brentford mentioned. I think because everyone saw Reguilon last season was like, we can have the same thing happen again. But I think Chilwell will probably go abroad if he is to go.
Yeah. Do we expect a bump up? And I mean, this isn't really transfer. This is more injury related, but a bump up in value of Somerville given Bowen's now fractured foot.
Yeah, I had this down to mention in regards to waivers. I think, yes, a bump up, but from an incredibly low bar. Yeah, I'm very much would be mindful of picking up Somerville because yes, he might be potentially guaranteed more minutes, but what we've seen so far this season is that doesn't necessarily mean anything with Somerville. You know, if he's playing 70 minutes or 15, he still might just put up 1.5.
Yeah.
I could also see for West Ham, I could also see them just maybe playing Kudus out on the left, or Paquetá potentially with Kudus on the other side, and then maybe playing a Soler slightly further forward and having, you know, an Alvarez and Souček. Going forward, I think they've got some suspensions, but going forward having like a solid two of Alvarez and Souček, and then just playing Soler slightly further forward. You know, I wouldn't say that Somerville's a surefire thing.
Yeah, that's a good shout. I wanna maybe say City are gonna spend some money this January window to fix the massive issue of no Rodri, and is that a potential bump up in a lot of their assets? I want to say, other than the defense, because we don't go there.
No, maybe. I mean, I tried to trade in Savio Savinho 2 game weeks ago. Obviously, that's not going to happen now. I think that's someone who I might actually think about trading out on this high, potentially, just because if they're able to bring in someone, you know, in that centre midfield slot, maybe they then get to push Bernardo Silva back to that right-hand side or someone else there. I think one player that I'd actually like to mention, talking about City, would be Makate, which I think I wouldn't be moving heaven and earth to bring him in, but I wouldn't hate taking a punt on him. I know he wasn't amazing last time out on the loan, but he was incredible for Sheffield United in the Championship a couple of seasons ago. You know, I think he's one of those where if he gets put into a team where they've got a clear vision for where they want to play him, and they give him, you know, he takes some sets and he is given some ownership, that could be someone that could definitely, you know, you'd be picking him up for free. No one's really going to be owning him right now.
Yeah, I mentioned him on the waiver pod I recorded before this. I thought he was one of those players this game week gone that, sure, he got 1 point off the bench, but ITAS-wise, he passed it for me. I think he still, like you said, is a very, very tidy player, and he could be a very sneaky grab/stream for the rest of the season, if and when he starts. So,
yeah, I 100% agree. I think in terms of transfer rumours, I've been trying to keep on top of them, but there doesn't seem to be a huge amount of inter-Premier League transfers that have gone on at the moment. I'm sure over the next few weeks, the PSR stuff's going to raise its head. You know, there was talk yesterday, Man United have got no money whatsoever without outgoings. Could we see any of their players, you know, rotation players, getting loaned elsewhere? Maybe. I feel like there's not much. There's a lot of deadwood, but they've got rid of the good deadwood in terms of like McTominay leaving and things like that.
Yeah. Another name that I hope he somehow revives his career rest of the season, James Ward-Prowse.
Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, the forgotten man, I think, you know, that move to Forest, anyone who'd picked him up was like, oh my God, you know, I found the magic bean, this is going to be unbelievable, and then it's just seriously not happened for him.
Yeah. I think, like, especially, we talked about the likes of, like, instead of stashing Pinnock, for example, you can drop Pinnock, stash James Ward-Prowse, and gamble on the potential that he turns into a mid-2, a mid-3 rest of the season if he gets a move somewhere else and gets a new lease on life.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate that gamble at all, really. I think I'm just looking at how people have done for ADP. Is there anybody that maybe some of the Brighton boys could be looking at a loan on? Evan Ferguson, I know the beast that is Evan Ferguson. Whether that's going to happen. I mean, yeah, if he gets a loan, would I be looking to punt on him? Yeah, sure. Enciso, unlikely, but could get a loan. Could push for minutes. Yeah, I'd be looking at some of those teams where there's bloated squads. Kiernan Dewsbury Hall. I mean, I forgot he played football. Could he get a loan out? If I'm Chelsea, I'm thinking there's an asset that's just wasting away on my squad that could bump his value up by going on loan. Back to Leicester would be the obvious shout.
Yeah. That's a great shout, to be honest. Any other names, or I think that should be it.
Yeah, I think we're good to move on. One person I did actually want to mention, Valentin Barco.
Hey.
So, as far as I'm aware, he's back at Brighton. So, I think Seville cancelled the loan.
Yeah.
I imagine if he's going to be loaned out again, it probably won't be to be within the Premier League. It'll probably be overseas or maybe to the Championship or something. On the off chance he gets picked up by someone else lower in the league, I'd certainly be tempted to stream him at least. I'm not necessarily... I mean, start of the season, he was going, stupidly, round 10, and people are like, oh my God, you've picked up the steal of the draft at round 10, he's going to absolutely kill it. And then 3 weeks later, he was on loan in Seville, and everyone just looked a bit silly, but...
Yeah. I always love a corner-taking fullback. The ceiling is always there. So I think that's definitely a great shot as well. All right, so our next question, do you want to read it out?
Yeah, I'll read this one out. So this is from Lemon of Troy, Ollie. A lot of people know him in the Discord. So if you were adding a manager draft to your league, where you each draft one manager, where they earned or lost you fab for their actions and awards, what sort of events would you award/deduct fab for? Oh, I love this question, by the way.
So it's perfect because I'm part of a dynasty league with Ollie, and I think as you've already learned firsthand, Ollie is a great commissioner for leagues, for organizing things, making it really, really fun. So right now we're actually in the process of drafting managers in our 14-man dynasty league. And we did, I think, settle on the punishments or the benefits of whichever manager that you're rostering. So I'll go through them one at a time. So the first one is Manager of the Month. You get 5 fab. Then if they get sacked, it's -10 fab. If they give a debut to a taxi player, so basically, from what I understand, a taxi player is basically like your 17-year-olds, your 18-year-olds that you're stashing in your roster. If they are eligible, I think you get +2 fab. If you own, or if that asset is owned by another manager, you get +4 fab. And if it's someone in your own taxi, you get +8 fab. And then this one I've loved the most out of all is if they get a hair transplant, it's -10 fab.
Absolutely love that. You've got to add teeth in there as well. Gary O'Neill's teeth.
I mean, there were a lot of great suggestions, to be honest, but it was just... for the ease of tracking them, they were quite manual, as well as if their match was the first one on Match of the Day, they get a couple of fab. If they were the last ones on Match of the Day, a couple of negative ones. If they're cited in public outside of a football area, you get a couple of fab there. So there was a lot of great suggestions flying around here and there. But out of the ones that we've kind of mentioned here, is there anything you maybe off the top of your head think of maybe?
Yeah, so this would be quite hard to track, but I'd be doing things like if they make a substitution that gets a goal or an assist, so, changes the game, or if they, or maybe if the team comes from behind and they make a substitution that wins them the game, that'd be quite interesting. Obviously negative fabs for yellow cards, suspension, things like that. But I think on the flip of that, if they won the game from the stands. I'd give them like a boost to say like they're that good as a manager, they're able to win the game from the stands.
Yeah.
I think would be quite a good one. I think fun ones could be like negative fab for like when Klopp always used to moan about the 12:30 kickoffs, moaning about scheduling or moaning about
Yeah.
referee calls or VAR calls. I think you could get really into the weeds about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, things like that.
Or throwing your water bottle or kicking your seat, negative fab, struggling with your zipper, stuff like that. Oh, miss you,
Yeah,
Wenger,
struggling with
so
it.
much.
Wenger would be in trouble, exactly. I think another one which could be quite fun would be, the whole, remember with Tuchel and Conte, like the amount of arguments that
the
people
handshake.
had with...
Yeah,
exactly. I think things like that would be quite good. And also on Match of the Day, when they have the like featured interview where occasionally it'd be like,
that was a suggestion
I know that's
as well.
completely
Yeah.
random, but something like that.
Yeah, love that. All right, awesome. So our next question is from Mr. Naru, one of the mods. He wants to know who would be your dream podcast guest. Let's assume I'm unavailable.
I guess it depends on what you want to achieve from the podcast. I think for me, Bob Mortimer just generally is just like hilarious and hasn't. I don't know if you've ever listened to Athletico Mints, which is his loosely football related podcast. If you're not aware of who Bob Mortimer is, people listen to podcasts, then he's a British comedian, quite surreal. And in his 60s, used to be on a show called, he's on too many shows to talk about. But he played for Middlesbrough at youth level. You wouldn't look at it from looking at him. He's a very stocky man. But
yeah,
he would be brilliant talking. To get him to understand fan tracks would be interesting.
Yeah. For me, I wonder. I think there is at least one, but maybe it would have to be retired. But a retired Prem player that plays fan tracks now. I think Begovic might be that sort of a player that has dabbled in fan tracks, and I think I only know this just because there used to be a podcast called the Bang Average podcast with John Wallen or whatever. I think there was a guy named Ryan on that had Begovic as like a friend, and I don't know if he talked about him or he made like a pod appearance, but I think that would be really cool. Like, the likes of like Michael Richards, for example, now retired, plays FPL, that sort of stuff. It would be fun to get someone along those lines that, has a lot of banter, has a hearty laugh, would add to the bands on the pod, not just like the data analytics and stuff like that. I think that would be absolute class. But for me right now, some of the dream guests that we've had, I mean, like yourself, is basically people from our community. Like, it's amazing the different types of characters, I want to say, that you come across in real life, in the chats, that you're able to bring onto the pod. And I mean, that's the reason we kind of started the pod, is just to have like this sort of great community feel to it, right? So I'm living the dream right now. That's what I can say.
Happy days. Yeah, I think footballers, it's probably best that they be retired, because quite often these footballers start a podcast and then just become terrible at football. I mean, so the ones that come to mind, you've got Kyle Walker started one this season. That's not gone well. The last season we had the whole Antonio and Callum Wilson situation.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Antonio, and I'm sorry to hear what's happened to him, but neither of them playing football for the rest of the season. It's probably a bad sign.
Yeah.
Patrick Bamford's got one now, I think, on BBC, and he's not playing for Leeds. So it would need to be retired if they want to keep playing football at a high level.
Yeah, basically. All right, I think we've got our final question.
Yeah, so this is from Sweetness McBossman. Always grateful that he's firing questions in. So what are your favourite goal celebrations? I'm going to assume he means what players, not ones that you do yourself.
I would hope so. I don't think I've ever had a good goal celebration, also because I've not scored that many goals in my life, part of leagues and stuff like that. I just screamed like a madman after I scored my first ever goal in Sunday League. In terms of, I like goal celebrations that kind of involve your teammates. Like you got 3 or 4 teammates and you do like a little bit of a bit, like, you do a dance move, or you like play shoot everyone and they kind of drop to the floor. Something like that, versus like these little individual celebrations. I'm not sure I'm a massive fan of Kudus's let me go sit on a random object celebration. What about yourself?
Kudus one, I mean, especially when you then go on to lose the match, doesn't look great. I think in terms of
or
the
if the
team,
goal doesn't count, right?
exactly, or that one. I think the VAR, we've got to bring VAR into account now. So I think we're missing out on a lot of great ones. In terms of team ones, I used to the Lingard, Declan Rice, the band one was very, very good fun. And another the one that I wanted to shout out team wise was, you probably have seen this video and listeners will likely have seen it. There was an Icelandic team where the goal scorer became a fish, and then the teammates reeled in the fish, and then they wriggled across the floor. I love that one. I have performed that in a nightclub as well before with my friends. It was a foam party, so the floor was really slippery, and I just slithered along and got picked up. Love that one. In terms of one, also the Jimmy Bullard one where he sat all the team sisters at Hull, and Phil Brown, the Hull manager, the week before or a couple of weeks before, had sat all of the players down on the pitch to do his halftime team talk, and then when Jimmy Bullard scored a couple of weeks later, he basically did the same thing, telling all the players off. That was amazing. In terms of individual ones, Batistuta did the machine gun into the crowd celebration, which was great. I used to love Luca Toni, who did the hand around the ear celebration. For those listening, I'm doing it right now. And I also used to love Lamana Lualua for Portsmouth. For those listening, I can't do that right now because I can't do multiple backflips. I think I was generally, I loved those players that weren't amazing but had an iconic celebration, and then just everyone loved them because of that. Yeah, such as Lualua.
The hand behind the air one, when you did that, I immediately thought of Michu, One Season Wonder.
Unbelievable. Again, we all remember Michu, not necessarily because of celebration, but he was like a mid-tier player. Fantrack's God, by the way, or Toga God. Because of things like that, and I absolutely love it. Like, we remember just players that do crazy stuff. Like the Adebayor one is obviously one that springs to mind, like running the length of the pitch. I loved Amari Hutchinson the other day, like the backflip against his former club. I don't like the no celebration. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, that one's an interesting one because I've seen players do that, and then eventually at some point in their career they end up celebrating. I think just do it. You scored a goal, enjoy the moment. Like, fans taking it that personally, like, come on, like get over it. Like, players are still human at the end of the day. Let them enjoy their football. Like, I think sometimes we get too caught up in this tribalistic attitude and behavior that it kind of tarnishes the sport a little bit. Like, I understand where it comes from. It's good to have rivalry and all that sort of jazz. But in today's day and age, like, as we're like evolving as a society and stuff like that, I think we just allow it.
Yeah, I'm the same. I think it doesn't mean that the player doesn't respect the club or love their time at the club. I think I think sometimes I get it. Like, if you've been at a club like, say, Lampard, went and scored against Chelsea, I get it. But you get situations where they've been on loan at a club for 6 months and played 6 games, and they're refusing to celebrate. It's like, no, you're celebrating the fact that you scored a goal, which is a euphoric thing to do for most people, rather than celebrating scoring against your old club. Yeah,
just enjoy it, man. It's not that serious. All right, cool. Those are the questions, and that is the pod. Elliot, it's been a fantastic chat, my brother. Really, thank you for stepping in for Ryan while he's gallivanting in Jamaica. He says it's for work. I don't believe him at all. But do you have any final words that you want to say before we sign off?
Thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure. Hope everyone has had a lovely, happy new year. And if you're not playing against me, I hope you'll win your games.
Fantastic. And like Russell always says, have fun. It's only a game. If you have any questions, feel free to join the Discord. DM me for a link. More than happy to get you in there. It's free. Just come in, have fun, ask your questions, have a great time. But yeah, until next time, guys. Peace.